Glenna Harris is visiting her home away from home today.
Hi, Glenna. How are you?
Good Shepherd Women's Services has helped her through some dark times in her life.
I first got involved with Good Shepherd when my second marriage ended. I was really glad they were here. I needed someone outside my family, friends that I could talk to about what I was going through. Because so much had happened in that time period. Like I said, financially it was devastating. And I was losing my home. I lost my self-esteem. It was very hard, very difficult. And it was just really, really helpful to know that somebody was out there that knew how to make me feel better and knew how to utilize the resources in the community to help me.
A survivor of a house fire, lost employment, and death of a spouse, Glenna is a part of a growing number of people in many cities all across the country who, due to circumstance, are a part of the hidden homeless population. And with the release of a recent campaign called How's the Weather, launched by the Women's Housing Planning Collaborative, a group of shelters in the Hamilton area, they are determined to get the word out this Christmas season that there is a lack of shelter beds for women in many of our cities.
Right now in Hamilton, homelessness among women has been identified as a crisis point. So while we have 134 beds in Hamilton for women, only 20 of those are dedicated to this really small small niche within shelter need for women who are homeless and might not be identifying as being homeless because of violence or abuse. That doesn't mean that it's not part of their experience, but it's not their primary reason for being homeless at the time. And within that sector, we turned away 75 women at Mary's Place alone last month. And then within the broader community, a woman is turned away from a shelter approximately 300 times in a month.
Even with two women's shelters, Mary's Place, a shelter for homeless single women, and Martha's House, a shelter for abused women and their children, both places often find themselves unable to help everyone who comes to their door.
We had two women sleeping on the couch at Mary's Place last night, on two couches in the living room, because there were no shelter spaces in the city. And then often women will stay with family or friends. It's really hard with women to identify how many homeless women there actually are, because shelter is sometimes the very last option that women will choose. So they will stay on people's couches, they'll stay with family or friends, and in situations that are often precarious or unsafe.
Glenna is lucky she has family and friends she can stay with, but she realizes that there are many women who are not as fortunate.
You know, this organization here tries their very best, and there's other organizations as well, but it comes down to there's just never enough. There's not enough shelters, there's not enough housing, and it's getting worse.
There is as many different reasons for homelessness as there are homeless women, but some of the common threads are certainly poverty. At least 50% of women who are homeless are diagnosed with a mental health issue that is sometimes untreated and can kind of spiral out of control. They're also dealing with addiction issues often.
And with 1 in 5 Canadian women living in poverty and homeless women living to an average age of 39 years old, the issues concerning women on the streets are disturbing.
There was a study in Toronto where homeless women had identified being raped at least once a year during periods of homelessness. So really high risk. Which is why, we need to be able to respond as a community.
But according to Glenna, many homeless women face roadblocks along the way.
And a lot of people think homeless people just, aren't trying or don't care, and that's not true. There's homeless people out there, everywhere that where's the first step? If you're living on the street, you're not getting the basic needs of life. And you go to look for a job when you don't have access to clean clothing or you know, even a home to wash up in before your interview. And you go to a job interview and like, what's your address? Well, I don't have one. Well, they don't want to hire you if you don't have an address. And if you don't look like you've put yourself together for the interview. And it just becomes a cycle.
But even with those struggles, she refuses to let it get her down.
I face every day with patience in one hand and hope in the other, because I really don't have a whole lot of choice in the matter. So, you know, I've shed my tears. I've shed lots of tears. But I'm blessed to have what I have, which is family, my children, my grandchildren. I have really good friends. I have Good Shepherd Women's Services.
And her wish this Christmas season is simple.
I want my own home. I want to be able to say, this is my space. I want to feel like I am not dependent on other people for my survival. It really takes your dignity away when you have to have other people help just for your basic survival. I want that back. I want my dignity back. I want to say this is my home. This is my space. This is my stuff.
In Hamilton, Ontario, Magdalene John, 100 Huntley Street.